I am Lamarcia Lewis. Let's talk. Today is Tuesday, January the 26th, 2021. And today's commentary is going to be talking about Donald J. Trump. As we know, he just left office on January the 20th, but we also know that he incited an insurrection at our nation's capital that took place January the 6th, in which he was impeached for a second time by the House of Representatives. He's the only American president to ever be impeached twice. On yesterday, Monday, January the 25th, 2021, the House managers took the articles of impeachment to the Senate, so therefore they're preparing to start the Senate trial. It has been stated that the actual trial would take place February the 9th. So that's basically like a couple of weeks from now, like not this coming Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. And I wanted to just talk about, it's been reports out there that Trump is basically trying to start his own party, trying to start a third party instead of basically breaking away from the Republican Party, because he's basically mad. He said, I heard one reporter say earlier, is basically to punish those that impeached him, like the 10 House of Representatives that voted to impeach him for the insurrection that he's incited, and that he's basically just trying to get his own Magna party out there. So Trump wants Magna party out of spite. And I've read this on Washington Post. 10 people that voted against him, he's basically mad about. And I guess he's trying to just continue to be that racist in chief, that white supremacist in chief, as he was called out on the floor by Representative Cori Bush, when she spoke on the House floor when they was preparing to do the voting for the impeachment. She called him a white supremacist in chief. And but what gets me, people are really out here putting party over country. Just earlier today, it was said that it's where I can play the clip. Rand Paul was talking about trying to basically get the Senate trial dropped on Trump. He didn't want to have a trial. Let me play that real quick. This is a 26th. Senator Rand Paul announced that he'll force a vote to dismiss Trump's impeachment trial on the basis that is unconstitutional. A sham. This is like a 27-minute. It's like a 27-minute clip.
Insist on a vote to affirm that this proceeding we are about to enter is unconstitutional. That impeachment of a private citizen is illegal and essentially a bill of attainder. And that no sense of fairness or due process would allow the judge in the proceeding to be a partisan Democrat already on favor of the impeachment. A sham, this is. In a few minutes, I will insist on a vote to affirm that this proceeding we are about to enter is unconstitutional, that impeachment of a private citizen is illegal and essentially a bill of attainder, and that no sense of fairness or due process would allow the judge in the proceeding to be a partisan Democrat already on favor of the impeachment. A sham, this is.
He called it a sham, and they did do a vote to try to, in which he put on the floor, presented to the Senate floor to try to stop the vote, and it was a 55 to 45 vote. 45 Republicans voted not to have a Senate trial to convey where The House of Representatives already have impeached Donald J. Trump for a second time during his presidential administration. And the second time, the reason of him being impeached was the incitement of the insurrection that he incited on our nation's capital. And 5 people died. But yet, you have the Republican Party, the GOP Party, not willing to hold the man accountable. This is where we are in our United States, all because of this corruption that has been allowed, enabled, invoked by Donald J. Trump, and his enablers are those of the Republican Party. Not once have they ever held him accountable for any wrongdoing. And this, again, is the far worse an insurrection that took place. An insurrection, 5 people died. It says Senate rejects Senator Rand Paul. He's a Republican senator from the state of Kentucky. So it bases him and Mitch McConnell, senators from Kentucky. Attempt to declare Trump's impeachment trial unconstitutional, 55 to 45. And let's listen to this.
In this vote, the ayes are 55, the nays are 45. The motion to table is agreed to. The point of order is not sustained.
So therefore, it's not going to be able to stop the trial, and that's a good thing. But I'm really, really, really concerned because, as we already see, they didn't vote to convict him. In fact, they acquitted him, which allowed him to stay in office from when he was impeached just last year, just 1 year ago, 2020, when he was impeached for basically the interference of the 2016 and the quick couple in the 2016 election, when he was impeached again by the House, but yet the Senate did not hold him accountable. They allowed him, and this is how we have gotten the things we have gotten. The immigration where kids separated from their kids, him continue to berate people, derate women, to be very disrespectful. And like I say, he did take on the responsibilities of handling the pandemic. We're still in the pandemic, and on his watch, over 400,000 American lives were lost. He called it a hoax. He didn't get vaccines, vaccination. We learned this recently that the Trump administration did not leave any vaccines for the incoming new administration, the Biden-Harris administration. But again, this man incited an insurrection. He should have been held accountable January the 6th, at the latest January the 7th, but he was not. It says, Senate rejects Senator Paul's motion to declare former president impeachment trial unconstitutional, 55 to 45 vote. The 5 Republican senators who voted with Democrats to proceed with the trial were Senator Collins, and that's the same woman that has said when he was impeached by the House the first time, where he's learned his lesson. And again, as Susan can see for herself now, no, he didn't. Milwaukee and Mitt Romney and Sass, I believe it's Ben Sass, and Toomey. Only five Republicans voted to have Donald J. Trump held accountable, that he needed to be held accountable for his role of the incitement of the insurrection that took place. Just 5 Republican senators voted to not dismiss the Senate impeachment trial. Senator Collins, Murkowski, Murkowski, Romney, Sass, and Toomey. 5. And we know that now the minority Senate leader Mitch McConnell, who was the majority when the Republican had control of the House, but now the Democrats control both the House and the Senate, where Mitch at one time, where the Republicans was controlling everything when Trump was in office. Many people have been speculating, well, would he vote to be in favor? Would he support Donald J. Trump being convicted? Because, again, he's already been impeached. The House has taken care of that matter. Now it's about convicting him, holding him accountable, and basically stripping him from all the amenities, the benefits that he got, that when a president leaves office and it becomes a new administration, that those president has like a pension for the rest of their life. They have a travel allotment and all of that. They have a staff and just all these different amenities that he needs to be stripped from, because this man incited an insurrection at our nation's capital. But thus far, only 5 senators voted to hold him accountable by voting not to Ron Paul's wanted to just drop the case altogether. So 5 did agree that it needs to be a case and he needs to be tried. Who knows? Hopefully those 5 will also vote to convict. But it's been stated to actually convict him, where he actually will be held accountable. They need 17 Republicans. 17 Republicans that will actually be able to convict and hold him accountable. And like it's been stated, if this man is not held accountable, this will happen again. This will happen again because, see, the Republicans now are under that direction of Trump. That's why many of us are still trying to operate the Republican Party, because as I had said in some previous videos, Senator Mitt Romney had said way before this insurrection took place how many Republicans are trying to channel their political careers after Trump, which was like, again, like the Representative Cory Bush said, the white supremacy in chief, the racist in chief, the bully in chief, the corrupt president in chief. That's what the old boy mentality, conservatives, where people of color, African Americans, you don't want immigrants to be able to come into our country to become United States citizens. You don't want to see black people succeed or come up the ladder and be successful, have prominent roles. You don't want them as senators. You don't want them as representatives. You definitely don't want them as president and vice president. And as we see with the first African American man with President Obama, now with the first woman and a woman of color and of Indian descent, Kamala Harris, they don't want that. It's the white man's burden. It's racism. The core of it all always results back to racism. And Donald J. Trump, as he was known for not being the norm, not abiding to the norm rules, and they allowed him to do this, and he so boldly and blatantly didn't have a problem with expressing his racism. He put out a full-page ad that time in New York on the 5 men that was acquitted from that Park Central incident that took place years and years ago, and he's yet to ever apologize. He called NFL players SOBs and all of that. He was on board with Colin Kaepernick losing his job, his career. But yet he has incited an insurrection. He was talking about, they don't stand for our American flag. But yet you had your domestic terrorist, white supremacists in the nation's capital, beating people, beating police officers, killing people with the American flag. But yet this Republican Party refuses to hold them accountable. This is where we are in America. Again, it's all at the core of racism. And not wanting someone like myself, who's an African American, or any person of color, or an immigrant. And yet Donald J. Trump, He's had 2 wives that are not actually, or wasn't born in the United States. They came here. And his 3rd wife did chain migration that he rebuked, then talked about. But that's what his 3rd wife did with her parents, becoming citizens. But you got the Republican Party refusing to hold him accountable. They refuse to hold Donald J. Trump accountable. And this is where we are. And you're not supposed to have a preconception, premeditated, in a trial. If this was like a criminal trial, they're not already have a pre-notion. I'm going to vote not to convict. You're supposed to be able to look at the evidence. And like I said, the evidence is there. If everybody would be true, honest, and not be biased, and not knowingly you're doing wrong because you choose to, but what you got the evidence all over various social media, the news. The man, hours before it took place, told them to go and fight like hell. He had his personal attorney there. His kids were there, those older kids, Don Jr., his girlfriend, Eric, and his wife, Lara, talking about we're going to take our country back. You had other political officials there. And it showed where Donald Trump was watching what was going on with Ivanka standing right at his side. It's been stated over and over. Even his niece, Mary Trump, has stated that he loved every minute of the insurrection. It was said that Kevin McCarthy was on the phone calling him, telling him to call it off, to denounce this when they were under siege. But Kevin McCarthy too, and he was one of those that voted with Rand Paul, knowing it was wrong, but yet you're going to condone it. You are complicit, and the blood is on your hand. I'm like, how do these people actually sleep? But obviously they have no problem. But when you're corrupt, when you have been turned over to a reprobated mind, and those of you are, if you ever read your Bible, and those of you that are Christians or have a relationship with God, read about being turned over to a reprobated mind. That means you have just made the choice. You're going to choose the enemy. That's where Donald Trump has never been a person of religion or a relationship with God. But you have so many other politicians, Republicans, saying they're Christian. There's no way. It just doesn't coincide. It doesn't add up. It's just a bunch of lies. You can't have a relationship with God, the Almighty, the one and only Savior of this world, who gave his life for all of us, but we have to make the conscious choice whether we're going to accept him or not. There's no way, if you got a relationship with God, like I've always said, could even be a supporter of Donald J. Trump, but definitely not now. The man has called 5 lies. 2 people have taken their lives since the insurrection. So that's a total of 7 people. It was a police officer that took his, and it was a gentleman that was a banker, took his life. The blood is on your hands, people. But if you're okay with that, like I said, obviously you still sleep at night. I just don't understand it. I truly don't understand it. The Republicans aren't taking any accountability for what Trump did. They just continuing to be his enabler and embolden him. All because they have the same cause, the same agenda. They want power. It's about power and the greed and the hunger for power and money. As long as they're okay, their household, their families, they could care less. And then they want to use the fact, okay, well, he's now just a regular citizen. According to Rand Paul, however you pronounce his name, it's unconstitutional. But they had no issue when they had stated anytime during a presidential presidential election, regardless how far apart, if we were in a presidential election and if a Supreme Court justice became available to sit a new Supreme Court justice on the bench, it would be the next term of whatever candidate won the election would be the person to nominate the Supreme Court justice. They didn't follow that rule, their own. In Lindsey Graham, you can use my word against me, but we know his word means crap, just like him. They were on this agenda to get as many conservatives on that bench because that's the mentality of their mind, to make everything conservative. The good old boy, you do as I say, and we're going to hold the black man down. That's why they did the sham. As Rand Paul wants to say, it's a sham. The sham was when they did that rush sham nomination, put her on the bench. Now she's a Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett. Didn't even honor the request of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg to let the next president, whoever won the election, let that president do the nomination. Who replaces her? They didn't even honor. In fact, the woman wasn't even called. And Mitch McConnell had stated that Trump would be nominating someone that they had already chosen. They already knew it was going to be Amy. After they did Brett Kavanaugh, she was the next one on the short list. But that's how they operate. That's how they operate. And then they've been talking about unity. But as many have stated, and even I have stated, and I'm about to state again, how can you have unity when there's no accountability? You can't have unity without accountability. You don't get to pretend, although that's what they are doing, that's what the Republican Party, the GOP are doing. They're pretending that the insurrection didn't take place. They're also trying to pretend that Trump has not been impeached. Talking about, there's been no impeachment. He's already been impeached. He's been impeached for a second time. Now it's time for a trial, a Senate trial, where the Senate's supposed to truly hold him accountable. But they talk a good game, and they use what they want, the narrative fit them how they want, and when it's convenient for them. Unity. But you refuse to hold the person responsible accountable. Bunch of liars, bunch of hypocrites. That is who you are. That is who you are. You're a bunch of liars and you're a bunch of hypocrites. And they bashing the other Republicans that is standing out for what is right. The Republicans that are standing out, just like Liz Cheney was one of the House of Representatives. It was actually 10, but they've been trying to call her out, and all the others from the representatives that voted to impeach. And if anyone basically is not on board with the agenda to go along with him, with Trump not being held accountable, they calling them out. They bashing them. Although Trump incited an insurrection, where they all were there. Joy Behar said on The View today, because they were talking about where the House managers delivered the articles of impeachment to the Senate on yesterday, and they were showing the video, and as she stated, they were delivering the articles of impeachment at the scene of the crime. That was deep. As we saw those House members walking through the Senate and to deliver those House articles of impeachment to the Senate, as she stated, as Joy stated, they were at the scene of the crime. That was sad. That was truly sad to see that take place. But she was right. They was delivering the articles of impeachment at the scene of the crime because it happened. Like they said, every last one of them can be a witness. The videos alone. Then, as they mentioned, the phone call Trump did with Brad Raffensperger, Secretary of State from Georgia, where he tried to coerce him tried to really just intimidate him, pressure him to give him 11. He actually asked the man, I need 11,780 votes. Why in the world? Why in the world when a man is this vile, a flat out criminal where he's out there lying, knowing he's lying, calling the election a fraud, saying that it wasn't a free and fair election, saying that the election was rigged, saying that the election was stolen from him, with no evidence to support his claim. Over 50-something cases, even the Supreme Court threw out his bogus lie, wouldn't have a part of it. And then he continues this. He, like I said, he tried to coerce the state official for Georgia to give him 11,780 votes so that he could get those votes so that he could win. He tried to put pressure on the vice president out there saying, well, Mike Pence can help us. But Mike, that wasn't in Mike Pence's authority. He just was doing the protocol of being the vice president to oversee the certification of the electors by the Congress. But Trump put it out there that Mike Pence could stop it. Then he had that rally just hours before the insurrection. Then it's been stated allegedly. I would say allegedly because you have to cover yourself. Allegedly, there was emails to reflect that he had been speaking with people months and months about this, weeks and weeks about that rally that took place. And then when they stormed, those white supremacy domestic terrorists stormed the nation's capital. The evidence is there. If only you would be truthful and be honest and not turn a blind eye, deaf ears intentionally, willfully. Hold Trump accountable. The Republican Party, again, it's just about that old mentality. That good old boy, white boys mentality. Racism. And some people have already been stating this. And yes, Trump is no longer the president. It has been said that he's going to run 2024. But if they do the right thing and convict him and put in there that he's to never ever hold a political official any type of role. And then, in my opinion, yeah, he's in his 70s. He's really gonna be too old. Now Trump has some issues. He does, but again, he needs to be held accountable. It's saying if he does run again, say in 2024, or just all these people that has taken on that same mentality as Trump, and it's like I said. Mitt Romney had said prior to even before the insurrection that many of the 2024 contenders are channeling being like Trump. So therefore, if he's not held accountable for this insurrection, this can happen again, and whoever that causes another, they too will not be held accountable. This is why it's important. This is why he must be held accountable. This is why he must be convicted. This is why this should have never happened. And hopefully, Lord will, it never happens again. But if he's not held accountable because of it happening, it very well can happen again. And whoever that person or persons, individual, they too would think that they should not be held accountable. That is what we will see again. And again, it's like I said earlier, it was said that he loved every minute. And that really tells what type of cold, heartless, evil, vile, corrupt man he really, really is. And I'm like, how spineless can these Republicans really be? Are they really this spineless do they really care so much more about their own agenda than what they took an oath to the United States, the Constitution, to defend and protect against foreign and domestic enemy? But this was the own enemy of the United States at that time, the 45th president. They're supposed to protect the United States against foreign and domestic. But again, the enemy was the president, Donald J. Trump. So do they really not care? Are they really that spineless? Are they too really that vile and corrupt? As from what I'm seeing, and like it been said, people can say this and people can say that. Yeah, they're saying unity, but they're not displaying they want unity. They're still displaying they're the corrupt, good old boy, white supremacist, racist human beings. That's what they're displaying. As the late Maya Angelou said, when someone show you who they are, believe them. So I go on what you show me, because you can tell me anything. You can say you love me, but if you're not showing me that you love me, you're lying. And that's what this party has been doing for the past 4 years. And like I say, since this insurrection, when they said, well, let's have unity, but there's no unity without accountability. And you're not doing your part to show that you truly want accountability, because I want unity. Because if you did, you will be making sure that this man is held accountable and convicted for the insurrection crime that he incited. No ands, if, buts about that's period. They were wrong for not holding him accountable before he left office. I don't know if this was their plot, they planned, because like I said, with Rand Paul trying to stop it, talking about it's unconstitutional to have a Senate trial, and that's been just, again, one, he didn't get he didn't get that approved, and two, it has not been, one, we've never experienced this. There's been some corrupt, because we know about Nixon and Watergate and all of that, but the things Trump has done, this has not been seen in the history of the lifetime as we know it for presidents. Because they say he's the only president since, was it Andrew Jackson, I believe? I think it was Andrew Jackson that did attend the inauguration for the incoming president. But yeah, like I said, he's done all these vile things. He called our election a rigged election. He said that votes were stolen from. He really put that out in the atmosphere, and so many vulnerable people believe the lie. That is where we at. That's why Katie Kirk has said what she has said with that billboard. How do you deprogram that? My question, can you deprogram that? Because so many people believed it. George Stephanopoulos had a conversation, an interview, where he and Rand Paul was basically kind of going at it, because Rand Paul still trying to insinuate, tell the lie that the election was rigged, we didn't have a fair election, that we need to be taking this in caution and all of that. And George would not allow him to tell that lie. Because that's why we're at the place we're at now. Because the lie was believed. The lie was given that opportunity to just float in the atmosphere. And that's why we're where we are. And you got people out here now not believing that we have free and fair elections. They believe in the lie. And then when you got actual Republicans that's condoning, co-signing, entertaining that lie, because if no one have ever entertained it, it would have died. But see, you had, just like Cindy Hyde Smith, the senator from the state I live, Mississippi, the woman that's known to have said She was sent front row at the public hearing. She, after that insurrection, and it went on to certify the votes, she still voted to overturn the will of the people. They made the conscious choice to intentionally, willfully go with a lie. That says so much about who those individuals are and the character of the individual. And you can't buy character, regardless of how rich you may be. You can't buy character. And also, as I have stated in previous videos, history is being recorded. There's a lot of evil people out there. There's a lot of deplorable, despicable, complicit people out there, just like all these Republicans that are not doing the right thing and are willfully condoning all this wrong and enabled Trump. History is taking notes, and it will not be remembered kindly. Of course, yeah, because you got many of them that's like you, they gonna be okay with it. But to those of us that aren't like that, history is taking notes, and history remember. Just like it's been so many people out there tweeting and saying, for those 45 Republicans that voted to basically not hold Trump accountable, but voted to be in agreement with Rand Paul, talking about don't have a trial. History is taking notes, and your names is being recorded. Then you got someone like Sarah Huckabee Sanders talking about she's running for governor in the state of Arkansas. Like, oh my goodness. Then I read where the press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, is going to Fox News. But of course, like most have been stated, that's not a surprise because that's what they do. It's either Dancing with the Stars or Fox News. That's where Trump supporters go. And if what is being reported about Trump starting a third party, and then like I said, is his main agenda is to punish those Republicans that he feel betrayed him and went against him by voting to impeach him, whoa. That's just danger. That's very dangerous. And as I have said, the man went through so many attempts to try to overturn the will of the people. He tried to coerce, like I said, the officials in Georgia, asked for 11,780 votes. We have the audio of the phone call. He tried to pressure Mike Pence. We have the audio. We have the video of him saying it to his base. We have the video of him telling those domestic terrorists, white supremacists, to go and storm the nation's capital, to go fight like hell. And we got how he, like I said, he tried to use the United States Supreme Court and all those bogus legal claims that was thrown out. Why would we want someone like that is showing us that he's evil, that he's corrupt, that he doesn't care about the American people? Because he's, as it been said, he basically stopped even being presidential after he lost that election. His main focus was trying to get the election overturned. That's where he was. He never really talked about the pandemic. And we, again, over 400,000 people's lives was lost on his watch. This is where we are. Why would we want someone like that to be the commander-in-chief? He showed us who he is. And trust me, I believe him. And you should too. You should believe Donald J. Trump for who he is, which is an evil, corrupt, criminal, vile man. He only cares about himself. His only agenda is whatever is the agenda of Donald J. Trump. Again, we just had Ron Paul to try to stop the Senate trial, and the vote was 55 to 45. And Mitch McConnell voted with Paul after saying acknowledging, openly saying that Trump incited the insurrection, that Trump was to blame. Mitch McConnell had been stated, and people had been pondering, trying to speculate, well, will he vote for impeachment or will he not? Well, Mitch McConnell showed us today again who he is. And he too is a despicable, deplorable man. Vile. Because they only concerned about corruption. They have no real, genuine compassion or empathy. They're just so vile. They so corrupt. Like I said, Mitch McConnell didn't even honor the late justice's request to let whoever won this 2020 president election do her nomination. She wasn't even called. He was already out there tweeting saying that President Trump will nominate a Supreme Court justice to replace. Vile. These are vile human beings that has no problem going against the oath that they took. And they just stood there 3 days before the insurrection took place on a Sunday, walking in pairs of twos, toting their Bible, raising their right hand and placing their Bible, the left hand on the Bible. And 3 days later, there's an insurrection. And it's been stated that they think some congressmen and women has a role in that. We saw on video where one man was saying, after they was taking pictures of the voting of, that they think Ted Cruz would be good with what they got. And another one said, and Josh Hawley too. These people have shown us who they are. And they all need to be gone. Like they said, Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley needs to be expelled from Congress. So many others. We need term limits on all of these politicians and congressmen and women. Because that's the problem. They have too much power. And they have come so corrupt. It's not about governing. It's not about us, the American people. It's about them and their own greed, their own hunger, their own thirst for more power. And to have this country to be what it was founded upon, racism. This is America. This is America. And Donald J. Trump has shown us continuously over and over and over who he is. When will you believe him? But then you know this. GOP, Republic, you know this. And many of you are the same. That's why you're okay with blood on your hands. The insurrection that took place. 5 people lost their lives, even though many of them were Trump supporters. You are okay because you're all cut from the same cloth. I can only hope, and I will have faith, and I will trust God because I know God is God. And this is not of him. He's a God of order and of love and rule. He chastens those who do wrong. He chastises those who do wrong. So you can only be who you are, the evilness, the corruptness, the vileness, the inhumane, the care about no one but yourself, your own agenda for so long. Eventually, you will be held accountable. Man may not do it here on earth, but you can't get away from it from God. You will be held accountable for your wrong. But it's my hope and prayer that you get to be held accountable also here on, because you're setting the example for our future. Donald J. Trump has shown us who he is, and many of you have too, GOP, Republican Party, but you have an obligation, you have a responsibility, because you took an oath to the United States Constitution. So will you continue to just show us that you are liars? Or will you do the right thing and vote to convict and hold Donald J. Trump accountable. This is my commentary, and I'm LaMarsha Lewis. Let's talk.